building. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Please can you make sure your mobile phones are switched off, or at the very least on silent and not vibrating, and your computers as well. If you could put those on mute, that would be very useful. My name is Vince Hunt, and I am the chair of the Housing Supervisory Board. Starting with you, Gary, if everyone can just introduce themselves, we'll move around. We'll do members and officers together, so it's nice and easy just moving around. Gary.
Thanks, Chairman. Gary Burchett, Councillor for Bagley Division and Vice Chairman of the Committee.
Julian Green, Member for 40. Rachel Muffins, Chair of Canova.
Ruth Houghton, Councillor for Bishop's Council.
Roger Evans, Councillor for the London Division.
Alan Mosley, Councillor for Castlefield and Dillington. I was substituting for Rosemary Dog.
Dan Thomas, Councillor for Shirehall.
Simon, introduce yourself, please.
Simon Jones, Councillor for the Shirehall Division.
The Assistant Director of Development for Cornave.
Harpreet Wright, Managing Director for
James Rathuri, Assistant Director, Homes and Communities.
Shelley Davies, Committee Officer.
Okay, thank you very much. It does say here, please remind members and officers to state their name before they speak during the meeting. I normally introduce you. If I forget, feel free to say who you are. So we'll move into the agenda, and item 1 is apologies for absence. We have received apologies from Councillor Rosemary Gartnell, and welcome Alan. Alan Mosley is substituting for her. And in the last hour, we have received apologies from Councillor Jeff Anderson. Too late, sadly, to find a replacement. Everybody else is here, I think. So we will move on to item 2, which are the disclosable pecuniary interests. I'm looking down the room. Nope. Excellent. The next one then, item 3, is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of June. I trust all have had a chance to have a look at them, and unless somebody says otherwise, we will take them as read. Excellent. Item 4 is public questions. There have been none received. Item 5 is member questions, and again, there have been none received. So we'll move into the main course of the meeting with item 6, which is Cornave Developments Limited Update Report. And this will be presented by the Assistant Director of Homes and Communities, Jane Petway. Jane.
Thank you very much, Chair. So members have a report here which provides detail about Cornave's activities over the last quarter. This is a quarterly monitoring report on their progress against the business plan, and talks about the live schemes that they have on site at the moment and how those are progressing. Pleased to report that the number of units forecast to be delivered over the plan period has gone up from 882 to 913 since it was last reported to the board. And 18% of those units will be affordable. To date, we've had 3 sites completed, delivering 27 affordable homes, including 10 under the Local Authority Housing Fund programme, delivered as affordable rent, and others are still on site. Draw your attention as well to the London Road site, where we'll have the first of the Cornave private rented sector homes coming online, and that Cornave has drafted rent and lettings policies for these dwellings, which we'll pick up on later in the agenda as well. So I'll hand over to Harpreet for any other points to highlight, or if members have any questions of detail about the contents of the report.
I think it's just an area of correction which we a slight contradiction. Apologies, Chair. Just an area of correction. We've completed 114 new homes across 4 sites. We've delivered 39 affordable homes. That takes the total to approximately 34% across our first 4 sites. So just that area of clarification in relation to a delivery of affordable homes on those sites. In relation to our existing activity on the four sites, we've now completed 3 of our sites. We have a sales update within the private session, which I'll outline in a bit more detail where we are in relation to reservations, sales, and also completions. And further, we have also been undertaking work on our London Road site as well. We are looking to launch the show home at the end of October. We've had a steady amount of interest on that site currently as well, where the key issue for us at the moment is resolving services issues. But we are hoping to be able to take to market the first properties on that site before the end of the calendar year.
Good, thank you. Anybody got any questions? Ruth Howe.
Thank you, Chair. I know, Harpreet, that you will talk more about unsold or sales rather in the exempt section, but on 8.9, the unsold balance, how does that impact on the viability of the schemes generally, and how long can we wait before they are sold?
We have always had a very conservative sales rate, and what we assume is that the properties from completion will not be sold for at least a period of 6 months. At the moment, we have had some stock which has been available for over 6 months, but generally, in terms of a mixed portfolio, we are about 3.2 months around all our property stock that's standing at the moment. There is a point where units will potentially become unviable in relation to standing stock, but that would take probably something like 2 years in total. The key issue for us is standing charges such as council tax and also interest payments related to our loan facility. And further, from a financial perspective, it's the headroom within our loan facility. So without selling properties, what we're unable to do is recycle that capital to build more homes in the future. So what we may result in is a knock-on effect if we're not selling the properties within our target period. In relation to our sales rate, we are at approximately 0.78 a week at the moment in relation to reservations. What we're finding within the market, reservations currently are about 0.3. That's what we're getting from a lot of our kind of house building organisations. And I think that's probably played out, which you've seen with a number of new home starts during the last 12 months. You've probably seen this in the press, and also the level of production generally within different areas. So our sales rates are decent in relation to reservations in taking them through that process. We're above where the market is, but it is still a very challenging market, and that's related to a number of things. First of all, we're finding a lot of people having properties to sell, and what we're doing is trying to work with people to sell those properties, but the chains are becoming very complicated. We're finding the impact of mortgage rates still quite tough as well, and generally affordability, especially around the jump in house prices, which we've seen a jump of approximately 25% in the last 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Julian Dean, then Councillor Gary Burchett, then Councillor Roger Evans. Julian.
Thank you. That was very interesting. But I won't come on that now. But just in terms of the affordability, just for my benefit, I'd really like to understand how the affordability breaks down, because we've got the local authority housing fund ones which are for affordable rent. So within that, what is it, 66 approved properties that are, in inverted commas, affordable. How does that break down?
Within the percentage of shared ownership to affordable rents.
Yeah, and so we don't do affordable sale directly. We do affordable rent and we do shared ownership. Those are the two methods. So yeah.
So in total, what we've got is about an 80-20 split in relation to affordable rent to shared ownership. What we're currently doing is bringing in more grant funding for certain schemes to deliver more affordable rented homes. Our objective as well moving forward is to focus more on social rented homes. So a percentage of the properties that we built, an example of that are the affordable homes at Ifton Heath. Originally they were going to be affordable rent, but with the work we've done with Connexus, they're actually going to be let at social rent. We are engaging with with Homes England in relation to grant funding, and they're expecting potentially an announcement for additional grant funding at the budget. But at this point, there's no capacity there to deliver additionality, and we continue to engage with RPs in the sector and also Star Housing to understand the financial capacity to deliver more affordable homes across all our sites.
Thanks. If I can come back to
Yeah,
that, then
so
I
I'd like
think
to
it'd
respond.
be really useful to have a breakdown on a regular basis, because to my view, because affordable rent means 80% market rent, which is frankly not affordable for a lot of people. So understanding what proportion of our affordable homes are actually social rent, affordable rent, inverted commas, and shared ownership, I think would be really useful for us in general.
Yeah, we'll circulate that after this meeting. We've got that information back at the office, and we'll do a regular update to Housing Supervisory on a quarterly basis, including the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Berkshire.
Thanks, Chairman. You mentioned problems with people having properties to sell before they move into one of our properties. I can't remember the exact details. It wasn't a scheme whereby the council or Conovi or Star were able to purchase houses and then do them up to market standards and put them back in the market again, or is that something I've misread somewhere?
It's not something that I'm aware of during my time here, but there may have been programs previously around purchasing empty homes,
Right.
Putting them into good condition and then putting them back to market. But I don't think there's the level of grant funding available now. What we're finding generally is that we're working with our estate agent partners to encourage those sales and work with them to speed up that process. But what we're finding within the sales market at the moment, there just seems to be a general gridlock in relation to properties moving on. Where I live, I've seen it on my road. Normally a property would be reserved within a couple of months, taking a lot longer, unfortunately. So yeah, we hope for a change. Hopefully, within the next few months, once we understand what's going to be announced within the budget.
Going back to the mixture of social housing versus shared ownership housing, is there anything in the market where if a shared ownership house didn't get taken on, say for a year, is there no possibility of putting into social rent? Or is that Homes England's against their rules?
There was programs previously where people had shared ownership properties where they could be converted to affordable rent if there was an affordability issue. That program no longer exists.
Right. Okay.
So no, but generally, what we're not finding people who have shared ownership properties having a difficult period, and there is always an option. And as speaking with my Star Housing on now, there is an option that Star Housing would have the first opportunity to purchase those homes if they wanted to sell those homes, and there's some financial difficulty.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roger Evans.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I might have misread it. I can't understand it. I'm not sure. But in 2.3, you reference a 913, and then the Q1 forecast estimates 18% of the 913 will be delivered. To be delivered will be affordable. 18, and then if one goes to 8.6. There, it says there in 8.6, from the current live and completed scheme, CDL will deliver a total of 249 units, 156 market value, 66 will be affordable tenure, 27 private. Those percentages don't seem to add up to me. Is that me, or have I misread it?
No, I think the business plan is made up of a number of pipeline schemes, and what we tend to do with our pipeline schemes is assume the threshold for affordable housing in relation to local planning policy, whether that's 10% or 20%. What we've done with our first 4 schemes is increase the level of affordable housing by working with partners such as the local authority and others to secure external grant funding. But we can't have those kind of meaningful discussions without securing planning permission for the site, understanding the financial position of our partners, and then securing grant funding as well. So we go with where we are currently, but within our first 4 sites, we've delivered 34%. And the aim was always to deliver, ideally 40, but we've always said we would go over policy in relation to delivery of affordable housing.
So, if the aim is 30% or why is it only showing 18% of the 913 as affordable? And can you define the difference in the rent between affordable and social rent?
I can do it as a broad percentage, if that's okay. So affordable rent is up to 80% of market value, including service charge. In terms of social rent, it's between probably 55 and 62%, not including service charge. So you'd say probably 62% on the conservative side of things. Just going back to the other point though, the business plan assumes the lowest level until we've got grant funding secured. And what we do is we refresh the business plan with all our existing schemes that are on site, where we're securing additional funding, and we do that on a quarterly basis and take that to the housing to the Abbey board, and then outline that this is how we're looking to increase the percentage of affordable housing.
If I can, Chairman.
You can. I'll let you come back one more time.
Yeah, I am concerned that we're just showing 18% as a target. For me, Canova, when it was first done, was to increase the numbers of affordable houses for residents in Shropshire, and to say that the 18% there is the forecast estimate 18% there. I'm not happy at that forecast, to be honest. I understand the financial whatever, but if we're not going to be deliver a lot more than 18%, why are we here? Because developers are up at 15-20% anyway. Are we going to really make that difference?
I can only answer in relation to the business plan is a document in relation to where we are currently, and we have to go with what we know. In relation to delivery, where we are is at 34% currently. So we have a track record of delivering more affordable housing than most developers within Shropshire. And I think what I would really like to focus on is the track record of what we actually deliver on site. And that's where we are in relation to our first book sites. And that's where we want to continue being as well.
Okay.
Can I get another bite on a different topic?
Yes. Go on. Why not?
Thank you very much. I was going to ask about the social value aspect, and Shane knows that I shared a podcast recently from a developer in Ireland, which just seems to be one of the biggest developers, who, because of their ESG requirements, are now committing to passive house building and social housing. It's just really fascinating podcast. So I just want to understand how our social, because our social value reporting seems to be to us, but as a company, do you have to do ESG reporting? And if so, how do you do it? And how far can social value also take into account, if you like, downstream social value, the effect on tenants, the effect on tenants' bills and lifestyles and health and all those sorts of things, which seem to be what's going on in this case in Ireland, putting them in that direction.
Yeah, we're kind of stepping off the actual agenda item. I will allow him to come back, and I did hear you ask the same question in the briefing yesterday. Do you have an answer that you're willing to give for that? Do you do ESG?
First of all, we don't currently. We are looking at ESG. There's a number of really good RPs that are put different methodologies forward. The kind of challenge for us at the moment is how we kind of record and understand that information and what it means for the organisation. I'm thinking more with a star housing hat on, and I appreciate it's blurring the line slightly, and that's where we would see more of that kind of benefit because of the work that they do with their tenants. So what I'll do is I'll request a copy of that podcast from Jane and have a listen, because you always want to learn new things. So yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your indulgence, Chair.
That's all right. That's all right. I've heard the answer twice, but in two different phrases now. Councillor Ruth Houghton.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's really positive that some of the properties have been sold to housing associations like Connexus, because that does mean they're there for affordable rent, and to Star as well. But I just want reassurance that they are at being sold at market value. And if you wish to answer them exempt, I can change the question there.
I think that's the whole point really of Glenovia, isn't it, is to return some money to the shareholders. So I think what we're trying to do is build great quality homes. Well, they're trying to do, because obviously I'm you guys, and not one of these guys, or the chair of the board, or maybe, but they have to do an eclectic mix of building high quality homes, delivering on the social end of things that we want, whether that be value or private rentals or in excess, but also on selling it to make sure that the numbers rub up and it sends some money back to the council.
So we,
I mean, feel free to answer that if I haven't.
What I can't do is go into individual transactions, but the reassurance I can give everyone is that if we are selling properties to a registered provider, it's externally validated by a surveyor to outline that it's value for money within the market. So what we're not doing is doing commercial deals without having the experts involved in advising us of what that looks like, and that's really important for transactions between Cornelby and Star Housing, given that they're both council companies, and we've got the ring fence, the HRA.
thank you, that was a reassurance I was seeking.
All right. Okay, we will move on then to item 7. We seem to have given that one a good kicking around. And item 7 is the Cornelby Developments Limited private rent sector policies. And once again, this is going to be presented by Jane Trethaway. Jane.
Thank you, Chair. So the board members hopefully will have had a chance to have a look at the report. This is addressing the arrival into the private rented sector of Cornelby for the first time. So it's important to have the right policies in place to allow Cornelby to manage stock that for the first time it will be retaining for itself rather than selling on into the market. And so associated with that, we have a set of policies that Cornelby's brought forward around lettings, debt management, debt recovery, maintenance, rent setting and day-to-day repairs. And it's important to note that these are private rented sector tenancies that Cornelby will be letting. These are not social housing tenancies, Shropshire Council tenancies. These are specifically Cornelby Developments Limited tenancies in the private sector. So a couple of things to draw to your attention. There are 33 homes that have currently been identified for private rented use across 5 different sites that Cornelby's developed. The new loan facility to support this has now actually been signed off just this week. So that is in place, allowing this this change of approach to go ahead. All of the policies that are set out here are in line with the relevant housing acts and sit within the appropriate regulatory and statutory guidelines. Lettings will be undertaken through an estate agent through a development management agreement. And there is a focus as well on opportunities to let these private rented sector properties to key workers in order to get the maximum benefit out of what Cornelby is delivering here. So I won't go into any further detail here, but I'll open up to questions or if Cornelby colleagues have anything else to add.
Right. First of all, colleagues, do you have anything you wish to add? No. Chairman, is there anything you wish to say? Right, Roger. That hand shot up very quickly. Even for you.
Yeah. Yes, Chairman. I noticed it was a decision about private rented housing was made before I joined the board. Why are we doing that? I thought we were trying to deliver houses at affordable rent for the majority of them. That was a whole purpose of Cornelby, as far as I understand it, to do it. Here we're charging houses there at the market rent. Not the affordable rent or anything like this, at the market rent. And I may be straying elsewhere, but I see the return to council. Is that in the exempt section or is it mentioned here as well?
Exempt section.
I will not make any reference to that. But yeah, but the where is it? It's a new policy, and I am concerned. Market rents. What is the difference between us and any other developer? If we,
I think Roger, we need to.
And just first,
Roger, if you let me finish, please. I understand the question you're asking, but I just gave a brief overview of what Cornelby is. It's not Star Housing. Cornelby is a private housing company of which has a single shareholder, which is us. So it's there to make money and then return the dividend to the council. So it's not there purely as a social housing provider. That's what Star does. So I will let Jane.
Can I finish? please, Chairman.
Well, you can, as long as you don't.
No, £7
I
million.
thought you had major,
I
asked the
see.
question of major points.
£7
I
million.
mean to carry on.
£7 million, I note, is a new loan facility. What sort of interest rate is that? Can I ask that here, or do I need to ask it elsewhere?
Again, we could pick that up in the exempt
Okay.
item along
Yeah.
with the methodology, if that's okay.
But I repeat, Chairman, as far as I was concerned, when Canova was first set up, it was provide low-cost housing to increase the percentages that are there to assist and develop. Return to the shareholder was a bonus, was not the prime aim.
So, Chair, thank you. For clarity, Cornova wasn't set up to deliver affordable housing.
No.
That was not the goal. There are lots of different housing companies that have been set up by different local authorities across the country, and they're all set up for different purposes, really, depending on what each local authority regarded as its priority at the time. So, for example, Telford and Wrekin's housing company only provides private rented sector homes. It doesn't provide any homes for sale, and I don't believe it provides homes for affordable rent either. And there are others which purely provide affordable housing. The decision taken in the establishment of Cornova by Shropshire Council some years back now was to set up a company that primarily delivers homes for market sale, but has a proportion of those for in accordance with planning policy that are delivered as affordable as any developer does, although Cornova's made a point of trying to deliver above the percentage of affordable homes on all of its schemes. In terms of the private rented sector offer, this doesn't detract from that affordable housing element. So Cornova is still committed to the same proportion of affordable housing as it was delivering before. So that doesn't change. It doesn't reduce the affordable housing element. The private rented sector element will come out of what would have been market sale. So there's no disbenefit here for the community. And in terms of the purpose of Cornova's establishment for Shropshire, the intention was to meet unmet housing need. That's how it's expressed in terms of the way it was first established. And that was really about the market housing that's out there. So I'm sure members will be aware of the difficulties of accessing good quality private rented sector homes in Shropshire today. And that's one of the reasons for Cornova now looking at private rented sector accommodation as part of its offer. Certainly because with my responsibilities at the council, including the housing need function, the homelessness function under Laura Fisher, we constantly struggle to be able to provide people with adequate private rented options when they are not eligible for affordable housing, because of course a lot of people, including key workers that we've referenced in these policies here, are not eligible for affordable housing in the traditional sense. And that's what when we're talking about unmet housing need, we're hoping that Cornova will be able to fill those sorts of gaps in the market, which unfortunately other developers and other landlords are not able to do. So I hope that helps to clarify a little bit some of the rationale here behind these proposals.
Roger, providing you're not going to flog.
No, it's
the same point.
That's another area, private rent. If I read it right, there is no local lettings policy involved with this at all. Is that correct? Because if these are houses there, I'm in favour of a local lettings policy. There are essential workers can come in as well, but I can't see anything about anything to do with local lettings. It is open to any resident in Shropshire, if I've read it right.
If I can come in there, we will have a choice in relation to how we select individuals to move into our property. So we've looked at key workers. We do have local lettings plans in place for our properties, and we could easily apply those here as well in terms of first priority. The only part I'm slightly nervous about is many people have heard about the renters reform bill that's recently come forward. So we just want to understand if there's any impact in relation to selecting certain people for properties against others, because that was one of the key issues that the renters reform bill has kind of tried to focus on. So, but however, it is in our gift in relation to making sure that priority is given to local people in relation to selecting properties and also key workers as well.
Okay, Julian.
Thank you. I've been asked about the renters reform, so thank you for hopefully we'll wait to hear more, I guess, on But just shall I throw in my other questions as well? So
Yes, please.
the main issue that I wanted to raise was just it feels, even though we're trying to somehow meet the needs of potentially key workers, I'm just a bit concerned that the proposal is to go to the max in terms of deposits, and also that the criteria in terms of the exam, if you like, for potential tenants seems to include a history of successfully renting, which is going to be tricky for people who are entering the housing market for the first time. So I'm just a little bit concerned that we're setting up some fairly tough barriers, which may make it harder for key workers to access these rented properties.
Thank you, Councillor. We've taken external advice in relation to what our policy should be for our private rented sector housing. But one of the things that I am aware of is that this policy will need refreshing and updating in relation to the Renters Reform Bill, and there needs to be a degree of flexibility as well, because I appreciate that point around first-time renters, which could discount them from moving into those properties. So what we would probably want to do is, if there is any exemptions that we are proposing to do, is to bring them back to the Housing Supervisory Board and give a justification, and to the CDO Board why we have undertaken that activity. It's, a policy is there and we want to work towards that policy, but at the same time I completely agree there will be times where there needs to be a degree of flexibility because of different people's circumstances as well. What we're not able to do without the funder's consent, which is Shropshire Council, is to discount those rents. However, it is in the gift of the funder to make that, to ask us to do that. And that's something, we would be happy to discuss in the future.
With your permission, so what's the justification? I appreciate I've gone out and asked for advice, but what is the justification for going to the max with the deposit and for including that clause in the tenant tests that they should be able to prove? I think it's 3 months, proper rent payments in their recent history.
Well, to say to you, I do think it's the industry norm, which is, where it's been taken from. I don't think there are many people that do it for less, but Margaret.
Not completely, and it's also taking that risk-based approach in relation to the tenancy as well. So as long as you have an understanding of the history of the person who's moving into your property, it helps you then make an informed decision as well in relation to letting that property to that individual. So this is the advice we've extensively taken. I don't think we're at the max. There's certain organisations now I know request up to 12 months, even longer, in relation to rent payments and other criteria as well. I think we've been quite flexible in relation to the policy, but it doesn't take away the wider point, which is the point that Jane made around unmet housing need, and also the importance of being flexible in relation to our approach when letting properties and making sure we're keeping the board and the Housing Supervisory Board in relation to any decisions that fall outside that policy.
I think Jane wants to step in. Jane.
I just wanted to add, really, in addition to what Harpreet said, from a council perspective, really, that we're quite conscious as the parent, if you like, the owner, the sole funder of Cornavy, that they are stepping into a new arena here in letting PIS properties for the first time. Harpreet's referenced a risk-based approach, and I think that's appropriate. I also take the point as well that we don't want to be in a position where we're excluding certain cohorts of the population forevermore, but we also need to make sure that we're not kind of tipping ourselves unwittingly into a situation where we find that the company is running up risk and debt and problems associated with having stepped into that arena for the first time and potentially needing to find its feet there. So that's why, from a council perspective, I think we're comfortable with this as an approach. It is a fairly industry standard set of policies that are in front of us here. And so our kind of thought from the council perspective is, let's go with this, and then we can adjust and amend over time as we see appropriate, based on then having some confidence in the bit of history built up with Cornovia around lettings of these sorts of properties. Thank you.
That's pretty helpful. Thank you very much.
Ruth Houghton.
Thank you, Chair. It was in response to your comments, Jane, about the unmet need and having the private rented properties to meet that unmet need. When I come across quite a few people who find through perhaps a relationship breakdown that they need housing, they have a lump sum of money, and then find when they apply to the house, the share home point, that they're not eligible, or if they are, they're right down the list. So I just wonder how you're going to monitor those people who come onto home point that really don't stand a chance of ever getting any opportunity to bid, and whether any of those, whether you monitor who you let through, who Cornoby let to any of those people. Or is that beyond?
Well, I think what you're asking is can home point be used as an information source for people who don't
Well, I
qualify
guess
to take
that
a
goes
person
under
to
the
rent to rent?
GDPR as well.
I mean, absolutely. And I mean, it'd be our ideal to be able to make that connection. It won't always be possible, of course, and Cornoby's, just providing a number of units, but they won't necessarily, we won't take up all the demand that we've got by any means. But absolutely, we're keen to make that connection and hope that we will be able to let people who are on that list at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Gary Birchett.
Thanks, Jim. You've already answered the question about the Resident Reform Act, which obviously is going to bring in no fault evictions, etc., which is going to cause us all major difficulties. Going back to, you said you're going to use an estate agent to handle the lettings. So what checks and balances have you got in place to ensure that estate agents deliver top of their game, 100% perfect working practices all the time? I'm speaking from a point of view, somebody who's rented for the last 7 years with various estate agents and had the inflexibility of rules or breaking of rules. I'm not going to go into detail, but what balances, what checks have we got in place to ensure that our estate agent is the best in the business and the model to all other agents?
Three things we've done, I think, first councillor. Number one, we've gone through a competitive tender process, and that's pulled together a very detailed specification, and we've had those responses back and we've evaluated those. Now that we selected a management agent, we are looking at an initial 12 months with monthly reviews for the first 6, and then moving to a quarterly position in relation to those. And then finally, all complaints will come to Cornoby directly, not the estate agent. So if there are any issues in relation to property condition or anything else, we will deal with those in line with that normal complaints processes.
Roger.
Chairman, to come back to the lettings policy, see in the appropriate appendix there, in 4.4, it says that should a period of 4 weeks pass from the date of first advertisement without a successful applicant being found and the shortlist exhausted, CDL will consider applications from those who do not have a local connection to Shropshire. Coming back to where I was before, local lettings policy, does something need to be there included in some sort of phrase so that keyworders local lettings policy would be utilised, and if necessary further out, and then this comes in, because 4 weeks isn't long, and then there could be somebody come up from London or come down from Manchester or Edinburgh to rent it. So just ask that question. Have I misread that?
No, and I think there is something we can take away in relation to what that local lettings policy looks like, because what we've done with our other properties is the ripple effect. So it's introduced first of all for, I think it's 2 weeks for people within the local area. So if we build in Oswestbury, there'll be people in Oswestbury, and then the following 2 weeks within Shropshire, and then we can consider going further out. So if you leave that with us, and we will take that back and feedback if that's okay. And it's that criteria for local lettings, living in the area, have employment in the area, or schools in the local area.
Just before you come back, thanks, Harpreet. We also need to be careful though, don't we? Because we could get a top of the range neonatal nurse moving here from Essex who may need to rent a home, and having a local lettings policy and just focusing on that, could prevent that from happening. So we do need to be a little bit careful. I understand the point you're making, and I think it was my scrutiny many years ago that got the first, local lettings policy introduced. So it's something that I completely support. We just, as a caveat, need to be a little bit careful. We don't exclude people that actually health, education, industry in this county need.
Yeah, I did say, Chairman, about key workers.
Yeah.
But can we just make a note in the minutes that that's there? We'll leave Harper to take it away
like that because it was said. So. I think that's it. Anybody else got any questions? Good. Okay, well, there are this time, the other one we just really had to listen to, there are a number of recommendations here. 3.1 is obviously that we've listened, which we've done, but it goes 3.1 to 3.8. I'm sure you've all read them at least once, if not several times. Are we all content to accept those?
I will be abstaining, Chairman.
Okay. Apart from one abstention.
Accept them.
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, I'm not sort of doing it kind of formally, if you understand what I mean. It's, I think Roger's said that he neither accepts nor is against them, so which is an abstention. So if everybody else is content, then we will move on. Okay, item 8 is the exclusion of the public and press. As you can see, the gallery is full of the public. However, we do need to end the live feed if we could. There are a few thousand people watching. You're probably going to go and find something else to do now.